Oh hey, didn't see you there. In my last video, I talked about infinity and the lasting concept of expansion by time, how the inevitable is also always out of reach. And today, we're talking about finality, where the road closes. Even at peak times, things will end, sometimes abruptly, sometimes gradually, sometimes with a wail, and others with a whisper. It's in these moments of the final seconds where we can sometimes see the true nature and purpose of the existence in the first place, where emotion, idealism, and happenstance clash and mingle. But selfish shifting change and absence only exist if we let it, for life continues, sometimes with a new creation to take its place and fill that void. The punchline is dropping anime.
To drop or not to drop? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler to suffer the slings and errors of plateauing stories, or to take arms against below average anime, and by withstanding, complete them. To drop, to sleep on, no more. Anime is a fluid medium. For as many shows and movies the average anime fan can continuously consume, there's also a bountiful plenty that aren't so easily digestible to them. And before I continue, I'm not gonna quote Hamlet anymore in this video. I already played that joke out in the last one.
I mean, not only is Shakespeare not quotable, but he didn't even have dinosaurs in it. That hack.
A great aspect to anime is that it's a style of variety. Much like other media like music, literature, and gaming, the artful experience of a single show differs between person to person. One person can find a show like Ah My Buddha to be a lighthearted, funny comedy, while someone with a brain can see it for the mental castration that it is. And so, it's with this flexibility with the medium that there's a certain action that's common enough to be coined in the weeb lexicon. With time moving forward, and studios and producers on the constant grind for said time, the use of variety in storytelling, style, and direction paired with the familiarity of tropes, tactical storyboarding, and even writing will inevitably clash with the multitude of weebs out there. Whenever the topic of anime gets passed around on forums here and there are some comments from people who will state either their intentions to drop a show or having already done so. To reiterate, dropping a show is basically to stop watching over it and emotionally detach from any and all connection to its characters or progression, like a depressed high school teacher who just got tenure. While it's pretty obvious it would be a common action, especially now when there's just an oversaturation in the market, let me tell you, I didn't get that memo when I first started.
In my first year watching anime, I just constantly binged shows until I couldn't anymore, and from there I just piled onto my to-watch list, beginning that very dangerous cycle I talked about last time.
And I was either stubborn or stupid because I just listed shows no matter what. If the summary caught my attention, I'd cue it, and when I did get to it, I'd be all like,
Man, this sucks.
And for some reason, I didn't stop. You see, I had something a little obtuse called teenage pride, and something a little inconvenient called autism, so it never really crossed my mind to stop torturing myself with gratingly obnoxious time wasters. It wasn't until I watched an anime YouTuber talk about, well, anime, and saw some of the shows they dropped over time. You would not believe how much of a revelation that was to me.
You can just do that?
Yeah, it's obvious, yet I was just being a teenage idiot. But not anymore. Now I'm just an adult idiot, with more freedom to pick and choose what I rot my brain with. Which is a bit ironic considering I got the freedom now, but not the time.
Man, if I had a time machine, I'd probably kick Andrew Wakefield in the balls. No particular reason, it would just make me feel better.
And so I've got a good handful of shows I just couldn't get into, whether it be for the writing or animation style or story progressions. For whatever reasons, I've just come to accept that I won't be the completionist type of anime goer. I'll just have to settle for the one who wants to watch what they want to watch type.
I mean, as an Asian, it burns my soul, but as a Gen Zer who has bills to pay, it's very freeing. Because someone else is killing me, and it's not the thing I love. Unlike unvaccinated kids.
While most of the shows I've dropped are fairly obscure anyway, there are those I probably won't live down if I admit to them. One that's moderately famous is Magi, the Labyrinth of Magic. I saw about 5 episodes of it before really tuning out the story. It looked fine, the characters had unique designs, the animation was bouncy and well lit, and the music was nice, albeit a bit forgettable for me. I just, for the life of me, found the story and world building dull. Another one of fair note is the 7 Deadly Sins. This is an interesting one for me because I did see all of the first season. I got fairly into the story and the music, but they weren't enough to keep me around for the next seasons. I just couldn't get into the art style nor the questionable characters in their writing.
Actually, I'm kinda curious where we are in the story now that more episodes are out now. Let me check in on it. Ah. You know that feeling of dodging a bullet? Well, this one certainly grazed me, but at least my spine is animated properly.
Then there are the shows I probably wouldn't get as much hate mail for. There are My Noble Masters, Hayate the Combat Butler, Ladies vs. Butlers. Huh. A lot of butler anime out there. I guess they're not my cup of tea.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I don't know, I guess aside from Black Butler, I never really found guys serving haughty masters under threat of financial destitution to be a fun premise. Now, if it was a haughty butler threatening others with financial destitution, then we're going somewhere.
That sounds like a confession to me. In fact, the double negative has led to proof positive. I'm afraid you gave yourself away.
Are you trying to make me look stupid in front of the other guests?
Don't need any help from me, sir.
That's right.
But you get the idea that there's no set rule to dropping anime. It's all dependent on your preferences and opinions. Some people just can't get into certain tropes, or find one particular aspect of a show sinking the whole ship. Dropping shows isn't necessarily an admittance to defeat. It's not really a competition in the first place. If it was, we're all losing. It's more of a cutting of your losses, where sure, you wasted a good chunk of time to something that's the anime equivalent of spending on and consuming fast food garbage, but on the plus side, getting rid of that trash is the first step to flush it out of your system. Reasonably, not every show is gonna resonate with everyone, and while calling them garbage is a bit harsh, it makes a clear point to signal that, hey, it may be for a lot of people, it's just not for me. It's quite the embodiment of one man's trash is another man's treasure. If anything, there is an aspect of commendation for even trying it out in the first place. Like if someone who's easily squeamish gave Tokyo Ghoul a try.
Okay, that was pretty bad, but it wasn't anything too awful. I guess I can stomach it, okay. Okay, now I hate this for completely different reasons.
Even if a show can grab your attention, that doesn't automatically make it bad, nor does it invalidate your want to opt out of it. It just means it couldn't grab your attention.
I went to school for English, for God's sake.
But it is true. That's pretty much all it means. And there's really no better reason. I say this because every so often there are those people who will badger others for dropping a show, as if their entire existence hinges on this person to get through 12 episodes of cliches and tropes. Now this happens way less frequently than say 10-20 years ago when anime elitism was at its arguable most toxic. That's probably because those same people who hounded others discovered that it's just about a good enough excuse for them to dish out. But even so, there is still that very small fraction of people who will abide by the ruling of not dropping a show before a certain threshold, and really want you to know about it. They're probably also the same people who will unironically pronounce it Barcelona.
And at that point just threw their opinion out the window. Like, no matter how subjectively right they are going to be pretentious about it regardless.
There's even an unwritten rule about it. The 3-episode rule is a widespread concept across the anime fandom that essentially states that it takes 3 episodes of a show to fully gauge what it's about and how it will go on with its standing, and by that time, that should be enough for the viewer to decide whether to keep going or not. For all intents and purposes, it's pretty much a scale in which it judges a show's whole worth by a mere first impression basis, and it's very much a contentious and arbitrary tool for people to lean on. I've actually covered it in an episode some time ago, and my mind hasn't really changed regarding it. While I do agree that first impressions are very important, especially in the media-hungry world competing for attention, it's not the end-all be-all. There are shows that don't reveal their full hand at the start and are banking on you sticking around in the gamble or curious intent. On the flip side, some anime lay all their cards on the table and hope the premise itself is enough to keep you engaged. And with these ventures entertaining your time, and hopefully alongside your money, always the risk of gaining neither, in which, yeah, there will be a number of audience members lost, regardless of the property. It could be within 3 episodes, it could be within 3 seasons, and that's really only accounting for internal aspects of the show like the writing, characters, and artistry.
Real-world time, economic fluctuations, events and circumstances outside the control of showrunners, producers, and the audience, these can move, distract, and pull away some people who ultimately weigh that it's just not worth it. And yes, even saying that you don't want to keep going on with the show is a good enough reason for you to stop.
Really, it's no different from those who stopped watching Game of Thrones midway through the last season, or people who stopped reading a certain book because it's just too out there.
Who the hell is Jack? And what's his motivation for jumping over a candlestick? This is awful character writing.
It's really just a normal thing that occurs in the community that still happens to have its own recognition by way of talks, forums, and even its own little category on my anime list. Really, very few people talk about the action itself as if it's sacrilege, when in reality, pretty much everyone does it, like jaywalking or using current slang to keep up with the kids. It's the meaning of the action that makes it significant. Dropping an anime is simple. It's telling yourself that you won't put up with something that will ultimately have little to no impact on your life. Art is a wonderful one-way bridge for all of us to cross. It helps us move in our lives while changing our vantage points on various topics and conditions. When you stop observing a certain piece, it's akin to seeing what's on the other side regardless. There's not much of a change aside from the time. And while you may not be able to backpedal, splitting off into different routes can lead you down a new path. Heck, there's a bunch of anime I watched in full that I regret. They didn't change my mind on anything, and in the long run, didn't have a profound effect on me aside from really appreciating the good stuff, which I guess you could argue as a way to not drop certain shows, but there's a lot of shows out there, guys. Even if you don't initially think a show's bad, it might eventually catch up to you.
Wait a minute. I think Magical might actually be terrible.
And really, it's great we're not bound by norms or unwritten rules to keep us committed to art, regardless if it's good or not. I know it's a really simple thing to say, but it's a really simple concept that I think everyone should learn. Which, to be fair, I think everyone already got the memo. But when you're a dummy like me, bound by pride to complete shows when it's not necessary, it's a skill I'm glad I eventually picked up on. Call it hindsight or autistic buffering or what else, but it's nice knowing that even if I jump ship, there's still other preservers out there to keep me afloat for years to come.
And even if you're not someone who drops anime, all you have to do is finish it. That's fairly admirable and kinda impressive on its own right. But as for me, I think I'm just gonna keep watching what I wanna watch, for as long as I can. Whether it be dinosaurs, Shakespeare, or even Tim Curry. But now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna give this book another shot. I mean, it's gotta get good eventually, right? Oh hey, it kind of is. Potential infant mortality.